Hello and welcome to Matt Loves Eurovision. It's my Eurovision 2024 Top 37 countdown. It's place number 25. It's Azerbaijan, Fahree featuring Ilkin Dovlatov, Özünlə Apar. Please do click on the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, like, share and comment below. You can find the link to the music video in the description and also a link to the blog post of this review. It's our first trip to the trio of Caucasus countries and the only one of the three that has actually won the contest, or the adult contest at least. Azerbaijan first entered Eurovision in 2008 and they achieved 6 top 10 places in a row, including the win in 2011. Now, since 2014, though, they've only achieved one further top 10 result. That was back in 2019. But they had been fairly consistent qualifiers, with just 2018 and then last year as non-qualifying years. Last year was, in fact, their worst ever result at Eurovision, when they finished 14th in the semi-final and didn't qualify. So can Fahree and Ilkin Dovlatov get Azerbaijan back on track? Now, Fahree is a singer and songwriter, and he is indeed one of the co-writers of their song this year. He had studied law in the past, but during the pandemic he chose to focus on music instead, and has released a couple of singles, in sort of non-album singles in the meantime. Now, as usual, Azerbaijan did do an internal selection, although they were a little bit more open about kind of what the stages were this year. So they invited 16 artists, including Fahree, and held auditions, then shortlisted that to a final 6, and then used fan and music industry panels to help get to their final choice of Fahree. One of the other finalists, Ilkin Dovlatov, he was selected to feature in the song, and he is an Azerbaijani Mugham singer. Now, Özünlə Apar, or in English, Take Me With You, it's a very smooth and both relaxing and haunting song, I think, that is mostly sung in English, but for the first time ever at Eurovision, for an Azerbaijani entry, it prominently features the Azerbaijani language in the choruses and also from the Mugham vocals of Dovlatov. Now, I think the use of a Mugham performer and the chorus in Azerbaijani gives us a real feel of where it comes from. It's that, and I think that's been quite rare in past Azerbaijani entries. For me, it really elevates this from what it might otherwise be. And while it's not a track that would necessarily set the contest on fire, it's pleasing to have the country's musical traditions kind of infused into their entry. I think also, people can correct me if I'm wrong, it's the first use of Azerbaijani ever at Eurovision, so there's a tick for that. But also, I think it's probably the first Turkic language that we've heard at Eurovision for some time. I think 2008, which was Desi, the song Desi, which was in Turkish, I think was the last time that we've heard a Turkic language at Eurovision. But do correct me if I've got that fact wrong. This hasn't received a huge amount of attention from fandom, has to be said, and to be fair, nor did last year's entry really. Does seem a bit of a shame, I think, because though both this year's entry and last year's entry are actually Azerbaijan's really first proper homegrown entries. Previously, they relied very heavily on particularly Swedish composers and producers, other people from other countries as well, but particularly Swedish composers and producers. Of course, that did get results, and of course the fans and juries do tend to like Swedish produced pop. But I do like the more authentic nature of these entries. And yes, last year's was all in English, and it had quite a Beatlesy sound. It wasn't a very Azerbaijani sound, but however, it was all created from people within Azerbaijan. I think that's really good, and it's the same with this year. It's an almost all Azerbaijan production. The record label that's behind this is also from Azerbaijan as well. Now, it's not at the bottom of the scoreboard app. It's not sort of in the sort of the bottom 5 in the scoreboard app. But if you look at the semi-final only, that's where you can see why things aren't looking quite so rosy. It's not looking like it will qualify based on the app and also based on the betting odds. It's currently lying in about 13th for both of those. And I do hope that if it is likely that this doesn't qualify, and I can see why this may not, it's going to have to do it's a quite smooth and subtle song and it may not stand out particularly. I think the live vocals will be fine, judging from I think because the music video was of a staged, as a showcase performance, which they perform live. So I think the live vocals should be okay, but whether or not it's going to be enough to get the sort of the televotes, I don't know. I don't think so. But I do hope that doesn't put the Azerbaijani broadcaster Iqtimai off from keeping with these homegrown entries in the future, because I'm sure that will, as Portugal finds, will come good at some point. But what do you think about the entry and about the entry? Do let me know in the comments as always, and come back for more. We'll be carrying on with the countdown. Take care.